I did note that SA Ballance has a dual role in this case. He is an expert witness for the state and is using the same skills. He was involved in the actual investigation from the onset. He was co-located, yes. And he was supposed to be helping Brett Payne. But these interpretations and opinions found their way into every probable cause statement supporting search warrants against the defendant. Affidavit of Cy Ray. Opinions and interpretations you're stating about Nicholas Ballance, Special Agent, FBI, provided to investigators and prosecutors are not supported by the evidence in this case. This is this very reason I was awaiting SA Balance's report detailing the facts, the data, methodology, and analysis worked on to make such egregious errors. Unbelievable. I expected to see work that explained the conclusions as well as properly addressing omitted analysis and errors in the work. The omitted work in this case is exculpatory to Mr. Kohberger. So let's look at that. All right. This is important. The omitted work in this case, for everybody that thinks he's against Bryan Kohberger, think again. It's exculpatory. Exculpatory evidence is evidence that will only help the defense. SA Ballance did not include analysis of AT&T handoff data provided by AT&T for the defendant's mobile devices on November 13th, 2022, between the hours of 2:30 a.m. and 3 a.m. The handoff data in the defendant's AT&T records during this time is exculpatory to the defendant. 12. Special Agent Ballance did not include an analysis of AT&T data regarding 23 time periods. Remember those 23 times they said Bryan was in Moscow? Yeah, this is what Cy Ray is stating. Okay, he's stating that they did not include an analysis of AT&T data regarding the 23 time periods in his report that he appears to be suggesting the defendant was at or very near the crime scene. A. This opinion appears to be based off cell tower connections, primarily handoff connections in the defendant's AT&T records. B. It is difficult to determine the process or methodology SA Ballance relied on to suggest this connection for several reasons, because the AT&T records do not support the statement. C. There is no report or analysis detailing the defendant's movements between June of 2022 and December of 2022. Keep that in mind. They don't have it. All right? It's not there. They don't have it. And they will never be introduced and used in any future trial. Would have been needed to surmise the defendant's phone was at or near the crime scene 23 times prior to the homicides, but you don't have it. There's no report analysis. So anything he's saying now, it's a lie. No, he wasn't in the house. He wasn't standing in the house. He wasn't by the house. And remember, you testified under oath in court that there was only 18% charted. And what was missing? The most critical time. From 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on November 13th of 2022. That's recorded. There's no mapping showing the network connections relied upon. There's no drive test coverage maps of the other than one cell site. Yeah, that's all you have. 13. A recent disclosure about what SA Ballance may testify to reads, handoffs are mapped on a case-by-case basis, which is determined by the needs of the investigation. From my experience as a subject matter expert in this field, this claim is outside of my established best practice of reliable methodology of analysis. The standard is that all data must be analyzed and considered, regardless of how it impacts the investigation. Okay, Cy Ray goes on. 4. I reviewed the disclosures about what SA Ballance will testify, and I do not find the disclosures provide further analysis to support his opinions. They never did put him in the house. They never said that. A. The first cell site recorded in this session is the only cell site that is chosen based on measurements made by the cell phone, representing the best signal from these measurements and ranking of surrounding cell sites. This theory can be disproven with the AT&T records themselves. This response does not explain why he would use handoff data at certain times while ignoring it at other times. C. Recent disclosure. Okay, this was the 7-minute change. Cellular phone usage by the 8458 phone on November 13th of 2022. Ballance is expected to testify that when the 8458 phone interacted with the AT&T network at 2:47:29 a.m. Remember that change? The phone was not at the Bryan Kohberger residence. This is what he's saying that Nick Ballance put. Rather, it was southeast of the Bryan Kohberger residence, as depicted by the drive test data. Ballance is also expected to testify that he analyzed additional handoff data that occurred during this data session, and that the 8458 phone stopped communicating with the network at 2:54:45. This disclosure does not provide analysis or opinion as to what SA Ballance found when he analyzed the additional handoff data that occurred during this data session. This is the very data I previously testified about having been omitted from SA Balance's work, product, and opinions. Okay, so then SA Ballance conducted a significant amount of drive test data, has not provided that data to support his work. Drive test data is collected when an investigator takes radio frequency survey equipment out into the field and collects signal measurement of the cellular network. By driving specific grid patterns to an area, it's possible to capture enough data to reliably estimate a cell site's coverage area. Now, in this case, SA Ballance and SA Kennedy spent several days conducting drive tests in and around Pullman and Moscow. They collected well over 500,000 data points. Enough data points to effectively map the coverage area of all relevant cell sites related to this case, that being roughly 24 cell sectors. SA Ballance has only produced coverage mapping for 4 sectors. And he did not, well, they do know that he did not go Highway 270. He would have probably went north, the back roads. And I remember, I have notes where Huawei Park, they have him at the entrance. He was there. During his alibi. Mr. Kohberger filed his notice of alibi on July 24th of 2023. This notice stated that at the time alleged by the state that he was inside the King Road home, he was driving his vehicle and not in Moscow. Okay, so he was driving his vehicle, not in Moscow. The state filed a motion to compel on July 27th of 2023, and a hearing was held on August 18th of 2023. The state provided a partial transcript of the hearing in their motion in limine State's Exhibit S1. Okay, subsequently, speedy trial was waived, and the scheduled order was vacated. Pursuant to a new scheduling order, Mr. Kohberger filed a supplemental response to the state's alibi demand on April 17, 2024. The Idaho Code 19-519 governs notice of alibi and requires specific names and places to verify where a defendant was at the time of the crime. Mr. Kohberger advised the state he intended to offer expert testimony through Rai as partial corroboration that he was driving south and west of Moscow, Idaho, during the early morning hours of November 13th of 2022. It's not anywhere by Snake River. The expert testimony involved cell site location information, CSLI. Mr. Kohberger further advised the state of his intention to cross-examine any state expert in that field. Objections to state's alibi exhibit. All right. After that disclosure, the court heard Mr. Kohberger's fourth motion to compel, wherein, among other things, Mr. Kohberger sought further records related to CSLI. Mr. Kohberger called Mr. Ray, that's Cy Ray, to testify at this hearing, and the state declined cross-examination. The state provided records necessary to CSLI and various batches of discovery. These records consist of call detail records from AT&T, cell tower lists, and drive test data. The state provided its CAS draft report and later a final report. However, no analysis has been provided. The state did not produce a timing advance report from Mr. Kohberger's cell phone. Okay, we'll go actually corroborate where he was. He will use information contained in the discovery supplied by the state, and he will present the testimony of expert witness Cy Ray. All right, so Mr. Kohberger moves to Pullman, Washington in June of 2022. As an avid runner and hiker, he explored many areas of the Palouse. Of note, he explored Wawaway Park. There you go, because I've never seen this until I looked for it today. Yeah, in July of 2022, and this became a favorite location. Didn't know about that either, but that means we do know Cy Ray has information that he was there at Wawaway Park. All right, after the school year began, Mr. Kohberger was busy with classes and work at Washington State University, and his running and hiking decreased, but did not stop. Instead, his nighttime drives increased and includes numerous photographs taken on several different late evenings and early mornings, including November, depicting the night sky. And I do believe there was a meteor shower that he wanted to see. Mr. Kohberger was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, as he often did, to hike and run and or see moon and stars. So that's his pattern life habits, I guess. And throughout, and I don't think that's weird, by the way. I've done that. I drove throughout the area. We have telescopes. He drove throughout the area south of Pullman, Washington, west of Moscow, Idaho, including Wawaway Park. Tower, cell phone, and other radio frequency curricula Vitae is attached to show that Bryan Kohberger's mobile device was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. Cy Ray, I'd stick to this. This is what you stated. It's a court document. You signed it. Cy Ray. Anyway, that Bryan Kohberger's mobile device did not travel east on the Moscow-Pullman Highway in the early morning hours of November 13th, and thus could not be the vehicle captured on video along the Moscow-Pullman Highway near Floyd's cannabis shop. If not disclosed, Mr. Ray's testimony will also reveal that critical exculpatory evidence. It's evidence that would only help Bryan Kohberger see, further corroborating Mr. Kohberger's alibi was either not preserved or has been withheld. So that information was only there to help Bryan Kohberger. That's what it states. There's Ann Taylor's signature. And even later, the state filed not an expert opinion, but a more full description of the areas of testimony. Now, if you notice, Mr. Kohberger requests counsel to be permitted to present evidence in support of motions. Such a practice is necessary to ensure that all appellate issues are preserved, get a load of that, to the maximum extent possible, and that Mr. Kohberger's state and federal constitutional rights are effectuated and protected. In addition, because expert testimony is necessary to inform the finder of fact, who at this stage in the court, it is most efficient to address these matters now rather than in the middle of trial. Remember, Bryan wanted a speedy trial. He waived that right because he did not have discovery. And the longer it goes, you see the problem that happens. Yeah. So Mr. Kohberger will support some of the motions with affidavit, but seeks leave of the court to call two witnesses. The two witnesses that Mr. Kohberger seeks to present are experts whose testimony will involve complex technical questions that cannot be adequately addressed by affidavit and argument. No affidavit can encompass all possible questions and areas of inquiry, given the complex and technical nature of the issues before the court. The presence of live witnesses will allow any questions that will certainly arise for the court to be addressed directly and in a timely manner. The witness's testimony is complex, the intricacies of which are necessary for Mr. Kohberger's defense and the protection of his rights guaranteed by the United States and the states of Idaho constitutions. So the state has relied on Special Agent Ballance to track the movements of Bryan Kohberger's cellular device. The reliance has been averred to in every affidavit for records relating to Mr. Kohberger, as well as the supporting his arrest. The state claimed that Mr. Kohberger's phone stopped reporting to the network at 2:47 on November 13th of 2022. The state has produced records from AT&T and drive test data relating to their anticipated expert testimony, but no actual report was produced. Instead, the state has produced PowerPoint pages. These pages depict a lack of analysis and a false picture. And I remember when Cy did testify to this. Okay, the state has conceded, contrary to their probable cause affidavits, that the phone continued to report to the network for an additional 7 minutes, but claim it is of no significance. But it has since been changed. The state relies on Special Agent Ballance as its expert for cell site location information. SA Ballance was heavily involved in the warrant process for records from Mr. Kohberger's phone and conducting an analysis on the same. Special Agent Ballance reviewed a variety of records and did drive testing to collect data. Some maps were produced. The state has not explained how those were produced, and Special Agent Ballance has not done so through police report or expert analysis. He has produced PowerPoint depictions that lack explanation. Defense expert Cy analyzed the handoffs during the 7 minutes that the state previously claimed the phone was off and found that the state's claims about Mr. Kohberger's direction of movement is false. When a phone is utilizing services of several different towers, experts triangulate the interaction between the cell towers and cell phone. They can determine the phone location. The state's reliance on a white Elantra and WSU videos is not supported by the cellular tower handoff data. Understanding what these 7 minutes of handoffs mean is best explained in testimony of expert Cy. Once the workings of cell phones with towers and handoffs to determine travel paths is understood, the impact of what the state has failed to disclose is better understood. The state has hidden exculpatory evidence.